Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 9. I guess the age of fast forwarding is coming to a close. I was using the citizen complaints on the apartment buildings as an indicator whether or not they were in good enough shape to come out unscathed, but there are other, less obvious things that went badly while we were using time compression. One of these things is the education. We had a pretty steady downward trend in our highly educated population. Once we stop fast forwarding, the trend will not stop. It won't be enough to fully reverse the problem, so we will need to invite about 100 more college graduates from abroad once the new houses are finished. After that, we will be fine. The focus for today will be basically a lot of small fine-tuning, while we wait for the new houses to finish. In the end, we will manage to complete 2 of them. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. If you remember, we had a bit of an issue with the bus construction office being unassigned from the local bus station, and that's why progress was so slow. Reassigning it will resume those projects. Next, it was brought to my attention that I forgot to increase the range on the road maintenance garage. Thanks again, we needed to reach the farm. Thankfully, we only had a couple trucks that needed the attention. Next, the oil field. I really want to make sure we don't use up too much of our money on building everything all at once. We need to pace ourselves. So we needed to stop everything, and only leave some of the sites active. If we did all this immediately, the price of the steel would have meant another loan almost immediately. Sadly, due to the need for college graduates, we won't see any new research being done today. We will just keep chipping away at the radio propaganda technology, and that's about it. I will increase the rate from time to time, but the focus will be on maintaining our highly educated population as long as possible. Well, back to the oil field. We managed to pause the construction, but we still need to set up the active sites. We just need to find the branches on the pipe network that will give us the most amount of oil for the least amount of investment. Thankfully, we had 3 pump jacks only 2 pumping stations away from the storage tank, so we will use that branch. We should also start upgrading our footpaths to the best possible version, and we need to be strategic about it. We obviously cannot really do all of it at once, so we will first do the intersections, and even those will be done in stages, making sure people can still get around. And our fleet of vehicles is back up to snuff once more. No matter how busy the garage gets, as long as we have periods of downtime, it's all doing okay. Next, we are still pretty far away from the completion of the loyalty broadcasts, so how about we add a couple small, unassuming monuments? We used these playgrounds in the past a lot, and they are perfect for residential areas. The only downside is their range, so we will need to place them in a way that will give complete coverage. We can do this neighborhood with just 2 of them. They can go in opposite corners of the Central Park area, and they should be able to reach all the houses. The most obvious placement here would be at the end of that little forking street that doesn't go any further than the house entrances. I still looked around for a better position, but that was still the best. Covering the new houses is a bit more tricky. I'm not sure the central clearing would be able to reach the ones further out from the middle. Oh, right. Before I forget, we should set the oil buildings to low priority. Sure, work on them if the offices have nothing better to do, but they should be focusing on the town for now. Also, let's not forget about the power. All this infrastructure isn't going to be much use if we cannot power them. I guess we will have to do this with 4 substations. I am fairly certain we could have done it with fewer, but I didn't want to spend too much time on min-maxing it on camera. And I think we can get away with using a single medium voltage line to power the whole place. These pump jacks aren't the most power-hungry buildings, and we don't have too many of them, so we will use a single big switch to bring in the power from the town transformer, and then split it between the different substations. Obviously, it's not the final arrangement. I would like to give the place its own transformer in the future, but for now, this will do. Maybe when we are ready to build the refinery, that will require a bit more power to operate. Also, it would be kind of beneficial if we built a medium voltage switch, instead of the high voltage version. This one even has 5 connections. 1 for the incoming line, and 4 for the substations. Since it's not the final setup, we will just place a direct underground connection, and be done with it. Next, fire safety. Obviously we don't want all this to burn down, so we better make sure we can protect it. In the future, the plan is of course to have helicopters looking over the place, but in the meantime, we will have to rely on fire trucks, which is not exactly the best, but it will have to do. Let's just connect straight to the main road. Also, maybe we should keep everything on low priority, including the roads leading to the place. In the last episode, I forgot to take workers out the small garbage collection points, so let's do it now. We can let them back in once the materials are delivered. Okay, the number of graduates is relatively stable, but still trending downward, even with minimal research investment. We definitely need to invite more graduates. We could also help the situation a little by adding a student dorm near the university. And this area next to the party HQ is pretty much perfect. If all goes well, it will even be able to reach the technical college once done. Oh, right. I was meaning to place playgrounds in this neighborhood too, but then I got distracted. Let's take care of it now. As I've said, I'm not really sure we should replicate the same things we did at the other district, so I will just place a couple of them in between the houses. One more should do it, but I feel like placing two in these symmetrical areas near the neighborhood entrance. To ensure we can at least finish one or two of these houses today, I will keep two of them on high, while setting the rest down to medium, some of them even all the way down to low. Since we had nothing better to do, I decided to place a couple textures around the place, so some of these kinds of errors are less obvious. Also, it doesn't make sense to not have proper footpaths going to the cinema stairs. Maybe we should start placing some of these asphalt footpaths in places that can fit them in. If we plug in unused connection with them, it will be easier to upgrade the others. Alright, the big garbage collection point for the new houses is done. We can tell it to start sorting out the rubbish beforehand, so we can start preparing for the eventual recycling industry. Speaking of, the big one we placed near the factories is still not done, so we will need to wait for that one to finish before we can set up the containers. We have a decent-sized prison population now, so it's time to put them to work. Which one would make the most sense? I guess I'll go with the fabric factory. And in case you didn't know, yes, there are two suns in the game. One is the actual sun that casts the light, the other is part of the skybox during dusk and dawn. I tried to create a new skybox a while ago, but I couldn't open the DDS files in GIMP, even though I have the extension necessary. A bit of a shame, would be nice to have a clear cloudless day for once. What I don't like too much is how garbage will be forever stuck in buildings if you build the collection points after the fact. We have buildings in the city that will never be able to get rid of a little bit of their rubbish. Later on, we will see how the hospital has quite a bit of biological waste, and it will be there forever. I wish it would just get moved into the collection point. And sadly, no, we cannot use a dedicated line to empty out those buildings. I tried. Thankfully, as far as I can tell, those leftovers would only start causing pollution if they actually overflowed, and that should never happen. Still, it's not the best thing to have decades-old rubbish in a hospital. Well, this is a good place to let construction workers walk in from the street. All the materials are delivered, so we can finish this in no time with the local workforce. And since we're here, how about we replace one of the embankments with the ship docking version? I wanted it to be as central as possible, so I decided to demolish the one next to the car park. It doesn't want to get assigned to the demolition offices. Let's just give them the bigger range, and that should do the trick. Also, I wish I paid more attention to the options we have with these embankments. There are versions that jut out a bit more into the water, so we could have used those to break up the uniformity of the waterfront. The only way to incorporate them now would be to rebuild the whole thing, so we will do them somewhere else in the future. And done. We just need to rebuild the one in the middle, and this part of the riverbank is done. Wait. We have a foreign worker in there. That's not supposed to happen anymore. As it turns out, I forgot to tell the demo offices to use local workers. Since work on the new houses is going so slowly, I decided to ease back on the priorities on things that are not all that important anymore, like the footpaths. There. Only the two houses closest to the city center are on high, as well as the garbage collection and playground buildings. Everything else is either low or medium. For a brief time, I did play with the idea of increasing our education focus more, but I will pull it back down in a bit. It seems our unhoused population is stabilized. We saw a pretty big drop in the overall population in the last episode, but I suspect it was due to the fact that we invited a lot of people all at once, and the first cohort of children grew up almost at the same time, and they decided to leave the country in the same fashion. We are still losing more people than gaining, but I think we are pretty much at an equilibrium now. Next, how about we tell the demo office responsible for collecting the scraps to deliver the burnable stuff to the incinerator, so we can pay less on exporting our waste. It's not really a big deal, the majority coming out of demolitions is always construction scrap, but there is a little bit of mixed and hazardous waste that can happen, so let's make sure we burn those. And the pipes around the oil field are almost done. They don't require aggregate materials while above surface, so our offices could spare the open hull trucks to deliver the steel. To be able to place the dock embankment, we will need to raise the shore back up. After we are done, we can push it back down. Thankfully, we only need to do one corner. I really wanted to speed up the house constructions, since I wanted at least one of them to be finished by the end of this episode. And there was nothing else I really could put down to medium or low priority in the offices. Well, I'm not happy about it, but I think we can afford to use time compression in situations like this, where we really have nothing to lose by using it. I used it a lot in previous episodes, but I think we might be able to get away with it if we limit the usage to maybe 5 or 10% of each episode's length. And we can place the new embankment. Just need to make sure it's as close to being perfectly aligned as possible, and it should all go together. Now that we have the road connection points, we can place the streets back in. These buildings should allow through traffic to pass, just like bus stops. At this point, we can safely push the shoreline back under the embankments. The only thing missing from the housing projects is asphalt. Let's speed things up a little bit more, just so we can get something important done in this episode. Alright. Time to let workers in, and get this party started. Now we wait for the structural materials to arrive, and we can let people in again. At last. We have space for more citizens. Before we let people in though, we should deal with the education issue first. I think 100 more of them will be enough to get us into a good enough place to start seeing enough people graduate to see an overall increase. And I think we have enough time to see this second house get finished before we close up shop for today. There we go. I already knew that these houses were close enough to the center, so I just let anyone settle in at this point. It seems some of the playgrounds are finished. Checking on their coverage, all the important stuff are in range. It seems there is a small lack of sports access in these houses. I don't really know if it's due to the fact that they are still new arrivals, but let's play it safe, and give them somewhere to exercise. The combined volleyball and basketball courts are too big. I would rather have a bigger monument in the middle of these neighborhoods. Thankfully, we have this nice empty area nearby. Nice. The asphalt footpaths are starting to be completed. It will be a long job upgrading everything, but we got to start somewhere. I think enough time has passed to see if those extra college graduates made a difference or not. And we have a small increase happening already. Of course, we need a much longer period to make a real judgment, but the first signs are encouraging. And this is it for today. Since we stopped using the time compression so much, progress is slower than usual. But we still did okay, I think. We managed to sort out some small issues, finished building the first couple new houses, and even completed some of the pipes in the oil field. I think in the next episode, we will get started on a proper construction hub, and just use the free distribution offices as placeholders in the meantime. The speed of our building efforts are getting a bit comical, so it is high time we did something about it. Other than that, it will be business as usual. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.